So Jeff Zucker of CNN has resigned because of a relationship that he had with a colleague, which was consensual. But it seems like, I don't know, there's some. This is in the midst of Cuomo's resignation from the network, dubious ethics on display by CNN in order to kind of protect one of their top-rated anchors. So Zucker's out. Tucker Carlson wants to jump on this story and give his take. Of course, it's insane.
Still, on this day when we should be celebrating Jeff Zucker's departure, we're not celebrating. Why is that? Because we see a pattern here. There are an awful lot of contemptible leaders in corporate America, maybe most of them. But only a certain kind of CEO ever gets fired. It's not the weak ones. The guys who do what they're told, issue the cringy statements and let the HR department run everything, those people tend to keep their jobs till they retire. People like that just want to get it over with and cash out. They don't take risks. They don't dare to build anything. They're just caretakers. If their dignity is the price of job security, they are happy to pay it. More than at any time in our history, America is run by people like that. It's only the strong who are punished. Strong leaders tend to be abrasive, they're arrogant, sometimes they're what we now call abusive. They ignore convention, they say outrageous things in public and private. They don't blend in with the group. Often they alienate the more sensitive types around them. They don't have maternal instincts. A lot of modern people are put off by strong leaders, but you've got to have them. Creative masculine energy is the essential quality in any civilization. It's how we got civilization in the first place. But increasingly, boisterous masculinity is systematically suppressed to make way for a timid caretaker class, for people who think the whole point of society is to get to zero COVID infections or eliminate all traffic deaths. Those may sound like virtuous goals. In fact, they're signifiers of decline. Not dying can never be the whole point. If it is, you're already dead.
Yeah, but but not dying is a pretty big, important part of civilization being created, right? You know, it's almost like there is an important role for, I don't know, say people with maternal instincts in order to make sure the society stays afloat, given the fact that women or cis women are responsible for creating life in that way.
I like how the people in his vision of the way the world works, the people who are in control of the company are not like the CEO, the sort of C-suite or like upper directors or board of directors. It's actually like a shadowy cabal of like HR reps who are like waiting in the wings to like fire any person who doesn't use the right pronouns. And it's a very interesting way to get around like the obvious problems with this, form of like far right rhetoric, which is that they support authoritarianism generally. Like they support like, at will hiring and at will work. They support the police having more money. They support the FBI having, carte blanche to do whatever they want. And their real only problem is when that authoritarianism is turned towards them in even most minor ways, or people who can, vaguely stand in for them, which are like public facing CEOs or public facing employees of other like media companies. And it's like, it's very transparent that like, it's never like the CEO or the board of directors, the people who they're supposed to be worshiping that are causing these bad things. It's always just like an undercurrent of like HR reps or like a deep state within the real FBI who are just waiting.
Yeah.
Also, this is an instance of saying the exact opposite of the truth when he says that, for instance, zero COVID policies would be signs of deterioration or a decline. That's actually a flex. When China surpasses the EU in the size of the economy, like they grow in faster than the EU while doing zero COVID, that is a flex of state power from my perspective. And I think it's a sign of decline that we have the largest raw numbers of deaths, terrible per capita numbers, and our economy still sucks ass. I think that's a sign of decline. And I think a lot of people, that's the interesting thing about Tucker bringing up the zero COVID thing, because you have a lot of other people that like to suggest they're sort of anti-imperialist, but they've taken on this sort of you're overreacting to coronavirus thing. Meanwhile, basically they're come to find that they're basically repeating the point from the West, saying, "Hey, China, stop your zero COVID stuff because we need you to your even more stuff from you guys, and you're threatening us."
Yeah,
like we this let it rip thing, it hasn't helped our economy, and it's killed and maimed millions of people.
And at the same time, he's also trying to normalize like workplace abuse, basically, right? Because
abuse.
Right. I mean, it's just saying he loves saying something in a sarcastic tone and not really following up in order to discredit it. And he does his other favorite thing because he says contemptible leaders in corporate America are the ones that built this country. So essentially, if you're a Roger Ailes type, I don't know, he might have a vested interest in normalizing that, Tucker Carlson. If you are an abusive boss, if you are participating in some sort of terrible power dynamics with your subordinates, then yeah, that's actually just the price of being a good leader. And the flip side of that is you are a man with maternal instincts, because Tucker's done this before. Feminization equals weakness. He wants to draw that comparison and make that link at any chance that he gets. It's also what Josh Hawley's doing on his podcast and in the lead up to his eventual presidential run in 2024. So there's a lot of isms in what he has to say.
It's such a weird defense too, like who he's defending and why. Like, I don't know if everyone who's listening is familiar with what happened. I mean, I know you summarized it, but at the top, but the story is really bizarre. Like, so Jeff Zucker has this executive that works under him that he's constantly very close with. She previously worked as a comms director for Andrew Cuomo. And from what I've read, she was integral in those Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, CNN TV hits that were really popular in the early days of the pandemic. And then this information where Zucker and her were having a relationship came out during the Chris Cuomo investigation, which apparently she tried to hinder, if I'm reading what I was reading correctly, because obviously she has ties to the Cuomo family. On top of that, a report came out a year ago where this woman was internally being discussed as the person to take Jeff Zucker's place after Jeff Zucker stepped down at CNN. I mean, that is absurd now that we know that they were in a relationship together, that basically CNN is this big interwoven, like it's run by like this big incestual, can't even say triangle, I guess, because there's 4 people involved, both Cuomo brothers, Zucker and this woman. It's like unbelievable how ridiculous this story is coming out. And again, Zucker had to let the company know he was having this relationship with this woman. I'm assuming he didn't let them know because they were having an affair. Both are married with children and left their partners to have this relationship after they'd already been doing it. I mean, I don't know what you would defend here, unless, I don't know, you had a very personal reason of your own to defend it. Now I'm just speculating, but
well, that's the point, right? Like, just a quick point on that, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Binder, but this is very specific with what Tucker's been doing in relation to the Cuomo story. If you recall, when Chris Cuomo was ousted, he defended Chris Cuomo on air and talked about how he was just supporting his family. And the feminizing liberals who don't want to have any gender roles fired him because he was being a family man and backing his brother. And now he's defending Jeff Zucker in this area. It's just something to pay attention to, as you mentioned.
No, I agree. And I think, it's the perfect kind of argument to bring the 2 main populations that it appeals to together, to be one big tent under Tucker Carlson, which is that A, it has the rampant misogyny for his normal fans, and B, for like the media class that sort of orbits around Fox News and that finds themselves like being in the same social position as Tucker Carlson. It appeals to their, class anxiety regarding, this moral panic of cancel culture. Like he's just, they could one day come for your job either because you're a misogynist or because you're just trying to use your position to help your brother. And isn't that just what the media is supposed to be doing, right? It's an unfortunate byproduct of where we've gotten to, that we can't really, parse out the level of, class solidarity that just people who have public facing media jobs that they make, the majority of their majority of their living from have with each other. And Tucker Carlson knows that it exists, and he's very willing to weaponize it as long as you get on board with his other problematic ideas.
It reminds me of thinking about the from the outside looking at, say, the Democratic Party and their inability to update the leadership and the sort of need for continuity of leadership. Like, we need Hillary in there, we need Joe Biden, stuff right? Like
Pelosi.
And like, that seems to me like something you do when you have skeletons you don't want to let out, and you don't want to give over the helm to somebody who you can't trust to keep those skeletons closeted. And I just think that repeats itself all over organizations.